classes. Okay. When I was in third grade, I entered a classroom where a teacher and a student were discussing some homework. The work under discussion involved a single sheet of loose leaf paper the student had turned in. The piece of paper was covered with weeks of assigned math problems, an astonishing number of handwritten calculations that included a crudely drawn dump truck to bring in more mathematical work. Passing through, I was unable to hear the end of that student-teacher conference on the validity of this piece, and I never saw that piece of paper again. This actually happened, and I still had my little yearbook, and this is the guy, Eric Witherspoon, who made that amazing drawing. And I think about it, if not every day, I think about this drawing a lot. There are very few, it's just, it was unbelievable. And my work I kind of compare every drawing that I make, it's like, to this thing that I saw years ago. Now, by the way, I'm not going to start like at third grade. I mean, this is sixth grade now, but I'm going to quickly move faster, all right? So I was in a classroom in sixth grade, and this teacher said, "Does anyone know who Karl Marx is?" And I got incredibly excited when I raised my hand. One of the rare moments that I figured I knew the answer. And I said, "Wasn't he that guy that did all those amazing 7-Up ads?" So it was kind of a strange thing for a student like to kind of have a greater knowledge of maybe pop art, popular culture, than you probably would the greater scope of history. But that was because I grew up in a house. My mom was at this point in her life, was a mural painter. She painted murals in houses, and she designed needlepoint canvases for people in New Orleans. And she made these incredible pillows. There were bubblegum pillows, and there was a rug that was chocolate chips, and I had on our beds, we had like this baseball mitt, and we had all of these amazing books in the house. So I kind of grew up, most people kind of come to art second, but I sort of came to it. There wasn't a time when I wasn't kind of aware of things in art history. My mom would sit me on her lap when she was studying for her BA and read to me from art history books. And we had these incredible, in this book collection that she has, one of my early heroes was this guy, Saul Steinberg. So some of you are probably, does anybody know who Saul Steinberg is? Yeah, so, well, he's done a lot of famous New Yorker covers, and many other things, but he makes these drawings, like this book, The Passport, on the right, is all of these drawings that look like things that would be official on a passport, but all of it's just nonsense. It's just these incredible holographic lines that look like text. And he'll even make these drawings where like guys are carrying these things around. And this idea of type that you could carry around, and the idea that a word could have a shape or a form and be physical was just amazing to me. I wasn't a huge reader, but I loved the way words looked on the page. I still do. I also, one of the things my mother collected was, both my parents collected art. They're both alive, by the way, and they still collect things. But my mom collected folk art voraciously when we were little. And we would go to this place called the Richard Gasperi Gallery that was in downtown New Orleans. And oddly enough, like my first show when Alex and I were still in graduate school was at this gallery. He kind of started showing, I guess, artists that were influenced by what was then known as folk art. Now it's known as outsider art. And this is a drawing by Howard Finster, and that's Richard Gasperi in this little collage. Another thing my mom, both my parents are great about these kind of things, but my mom was really into children's book illustration. And I had these books by this guy named Mark Allen Stamety. He has a recent children's book. He's kind of an interesting guy. He's an Elvis impersonator, and and he writes books and makes cartoons. Washington's, he did a lot of things for the Village Voice. McDougal Street. Anyway, this book, Small in the Saddle, was a book that I really loved by him. And when I graduated from high school, my mom actually bought me a double-page spread from this book, which is one of my most treasured possessions. But this kind of madcap way, this obsessive quality of his work, these strange combinations of things, just I thought were unbelievable, and still do. I also loved Schoolhouse Rock, and this idea that the way I still, those songs, when I use an adjective or an adverb or I'm adding, I still I'm kind of singing those songs in my head. And I listen to Zero when I'm drawing sometimes. So time passes and various projects take place. All those influences are acknowledged in private but kept tamped down in my work. So this is late in graduate school. Did you remember this visitor? So we had this visitor that came named David Carson. And there's actually, Ed Fella quotes this on the back of one of David Carson's books. He calls it the Paganini of typography. But this was all that stuff, like I said, I had tamped this stuff down. In fact, we had this review before you went into your final year of graduate school, and these professors asked, who were my influences? And I was going to say Saul Steinberg, but I didn't think that was cool enough, or right. So I didn't mention that. Or I wouldn't have mentioned that, that guy that came, David Carson, his use of typography, I loved that. That's the kind of work that that work really inspires me. But there was this strange, if I hung out in the graphic design room and I went to hear his lecture and he did this we made a book as a class, that was sort of those sort of spots didn't intersect. But I don't see really, if it's great, it's great. Anyway, this is a magazine called Beach Culture, and it had a really short run, but the way he used type, it kind of ignited something that had been pushed down for years.